Katt Williams is reportedly begging for help after people connected to Kevin Hart showed up at his house. And following Kevin's recent roast, it looks like their longtime feud may be entering a far more dangerous phase. On Sunday night, May 10, 2026, at Los Angeles' Kia Forum during the Netflix Is a Joke festival, Katt Williams unexpectedly appeared as one of the evening's roasters at the roast of Kevin Hart. Nobody in that building saw it coming, including Kevin Hart himself. Actress Regina Hall surprised the audience by bringing Williams out onto the stage, dressed in a black hat and a long black leather cape. The moment the Friday after next actor stepped into the light, the crowd erupted. Because this was not just any roast guest. This was the man who, for over a decade, had been publicly dismantling Kevin Hart's reputation brick by brick. And now he was standing in the middle of Kevin Hart's party, holding a microphone. "I'm surprised they invited me," Williams said after being introduced by Hall. "That's how little star power you have. They had to start inviting your enemies." "I said I hate him. They said come anyway." The room laughed. But underneath that laughter was a decade of heat. Because when Katt Williams says he hates Kevin Hart, it does not read as a punchline the way it might from someone else. It reads as a statement of record, a documented, publicly filed grievance, and everyone in that building knew it. Despite the circumstances of the reunion, Williams kept his signature sharp edge. His set leaned heavily into Hart's career and his alleged associations with embattled music mogul Sean "Diddy" Combs. "Very humble of me to be at your GOAT roast tonight," Williams said from the podium. "Kevin, I've won an Emmy Award, but this is going to be my best acting tonight, as I pretend like you're a GOAT for the people at home." Then he pushed further. "But for those of you just joining us, Kevin and I have beef. And I'll tell you why. Because privately, this motherf stole everything from me. Before he saw my act, he was a 6-foot man. I tried to tell y'all that Kevin Hart was a plant, because I keep burying him and he keeps springing back up, just like a plant." Hart watched from the roast chair. He laughed. And then he clapped back. "Katt said tonight that I took all his movies that he turned down." "All right, let's unpack it. Katt, you're telling me you turned down Jumanji 1, 2, 3? Ride Along 1, 2? Central Intelligence? Think Like a Man 1, 2? The Upside? About Last Night? Borderlands? Man from Toronto, so you could do a cameo in Norbit." But then something shifted. Hart stepped outside the comedy. He spoke directly to Williams, not as a roastee firing back, but as a man with something genuine to say. "Me and this man have been at odds for years and years," Kevin acknowledged. "Katt, we have an opportunity in real time to put our beef behind us. I am offering you an olive branch of peace. I want to be a brother. I want to be your friend. Katt, I want to move on. Can we move on, man?" Both comedians shook hands. And then they hugged. "It's not good for all these white people to see two black people fighting," Hart said. "We're too small to have the beef that we had. So, Katt, it's over. The beef is over between me and Katt." The building came apart. Fans online praised Hart for extending the olive branch first, with one writing, "For Kevin to be the one to reach out when he was the one dragged repeatedly by Katt, that really shows how big his heart is." But to truly understand what that moment meant, you have to go all the way back to where this started. Because Katt Williams did not simply wake up one day and decide to go after Kevin Hart for sport. This was personal. This was years of watching someone else sit in what he believed was his seat. The rivalry began not with malice, but with a stray remark about Shaquille O'Neal in 2014. What followed was 11 years of apologies, accusations, and at least one $5 million dare nobody ever collected on. In August 2014, Katt Williams spoke to TMZ Sports and, when asked who the funniest athlete was, declared that Shaquille O'Neal and Russell Simmons should get out of comedy and stay in their lane. Kevin Hart had not even been mentioned. Williams called O'Neal a bum, and then, almost as an afterthought, added, "Get out of here, y'all bum, before I take the rest of your girls like you took Kevin Hart from me." That last line. That throwaway clause tucked at the end of a rant about someone else entirely. That was the first bullet fired, almost casually, almost accidentally, in what would become one of the longest-running feuds in stand-up comedy history. And what made it so loaded was the phrase, "like you took Kevin Hart from me." Embedded in that sentence is an entire worldview. The idea that Kevin Hart was not earned, he was given. That he was someone else's, and someone else had been allowed to take him. Their tension first went fully public in 2014, when Katt began making passive-aggressive comments about comedians joining the Hollywood machine. This was around the time Kevin's film career was gaining serious traction right along. About last night, think like A Man 2, top 5. Hart was rising fast. Later that year, Katt alleged that he had helped make Kevin into the comedian he became. Think about what that claim really says. Katt Williams, a man who had been headlining sold-out arenas, releasing HBO specials, and building one of the most loyal fan bases in comedy long before Kevin Hart was a household name, was now watching Hart eclipse him. Not just match him. Eclipse him. And instead of processing that quietly, Williams started saying the quiet part out loud. By 2016, Katt was calling Kevin a Hollywood puppet during his conspiracy theory comedy tour in Atlanta. Kevin did not respond directly, but that same year he shared an Instagram post about unity in the comedy world, a photo with Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle at the Oscars, with a caption about how true professionals understand the importance of sticking together. At the end of the day, we are comedians, and there aren't many that make it to the level that we have made it. The subtext was clear. Hart was not going to come down into the dirt with Katt. He was going to stay up where the air was clean and gesture toward the kind of man he was trying to be, implying, without saying it, that the man throwing shade was not that kind of man. Then 2017 arrived, and Katt Williams made a move that forced Hart to break his silence. Williams yanked fellow comedian Tiffany Haddish into the feud by publicly questioning whether Girls Trip was a legitimate success and whether Haddish had truly earned it. And Kevin Hart, who had a genuine professional relationship with Haddish, could not let that go unanswered. Mid-press run for Night School, which starred Haddish, Hart appeared on Power 105.1's The Breakfast Club and delivered a direct response. You had the shot. You were the guy. You were set up to be the star. You did not show up to work. Hart argued that Williams kept pointing at Hollywood and the industry rather than accepting personal responsibility, and then landed the line that would follow Williams for years. He chose D. Take responsibility for what you chose. Hart also challenged Williams on mentorship, asking whether he had ever used his platform to genuinely lift up the people beneath him, and answered his own question with a firm no. That was 2018, and it was the last time Hart publicly engaged Williams in any meaningful way. Years later, Hart admitted he should never have addressed him at all. I don't have to. Why? What will it do for me? What will I gain? There's no gain. I look at everything from a business and economic standpoint. So Hart went silent. He went back to his movies, his deals, his empire. And Katt Williams, stripped of his biggest punching bag, went quiet on that front too. For about 6 years. Then January 2024 happened. Katt Williams had the biggest and most viral year of any celebrity that made headlines in 2024, as millions of fans and critics declared him a prophet of chaos. The running joke since January 3rd was that he opened a portal by unleashing his grievances about his comedic peers and the dark underbelly of the entertainment industry. In his Club Shay interview, 10 months and 83 million YouTube views later, Katt Williams revealed there were things he had left on the cutting room floor. During his incendiary appearance on the show, hosted by Shannon Sharpe, the 53-year-old actor was later interviewed at New York Magazine's Vulture Festival, where he was asked about the major moment from that January. He had called out several comedians and actors by name: Kevin Hart, Cedric the Entertainer, Steve Harvey, Ricky Smiley, and Williams was not being casual about it. He was not venting. He was executing. I was trying to do something there that hadn't been done, he stated. I thought that I had figured out the algorithm mathematically, and I thought that I could show that. When I wrote it out to kill the careers of the people that I was talking about. Let that sit for a second. He wrote it out. He planned it. This was not a hot mic moment, not an accidental interview gone sideways. More than 86 million people watched the unleashed comedian spill exaggerated truths, jokes, and theories across a nearly 3-hour video. And the specific ammunition he brought for Kevin Hart was the kind of thing that sticks, because it touched on the one thing no comedian can afford to have questioned: their legitimacy. Williams declared that in 15 years in Hollywood, nobody had a memory of a sold-out Hart show, a line around the block for him, or a standing ovation at any comedy club. He then alleged that for 5 years, every film Hart made had previously been offered to him, and that he had passed on each one for content reasons. No one in Hollywood has a memory of going to a sold-out Kevin Hart show, there being a line for him, ever getting a standing ovation at any comedy club, Katt alleged, before adding, he already had his deals when he got here. Have we ever heard of a comedian who came to LA and in his first year had his own sitcom on network TV and his own movie that he was leading? No. We've never heard of that before that person or since. The internet consumed it. Kevin Hart responded. But the response was careful, measured, almost allergic to the bait. "It's just entertainment," Hart said when asked about Williams' remarks. "If that's what he fuels himself off, God bless him. Good for him. I hope he gets all that he needs and wants, and I'm here cheering for him from afar. That's my real energy. I really mean it." He added via X in early 2024, "Got to get that anger out, champ. It's honestly sad." But the audience, all 86 million of them, was not nearly as measured. The internet split into two camps. Team Katt said Williams was a prophet finally telling the truth about how Hollywood works. Team Hart said Williams was a man unable to take accountability for his own collapse. Both sides dug in, and the clip got clipped, reposted, analyzed, and memed into the cultural conversation for the rest of 2024. Uncoincidentally, Hart endured a rocky stretch for his public image following the Club Shay moment. The True Story star quietly shuttered his Hart House restaurants earlier in 2024 with no public statement and, despite being on tour for much of the year, had yet to take his show abroad. Whether the timing was coincidence or consequence, the optics were rough for Hart, and Katt Williams, for the first time in years, had the energy of someone who was winning. Now here is the part of the story that gets complicated. Because if you want to understand why Katt Williams showing up at Kevin Hart's roast feels less like a triumphant comeuppance and more like a man at a crossroads, you have to look at what was happening to Katt Williams while he was firing all these shots at everyone else. Katt Williams has faced legal issues throughout his career, including 19 felony charges. While he has pleaded no contest and received sentences of probation and fines, he maintains that none of those charges resulted in an actual felony conviction. 19. That number does not belong in a career biography. It belongs in a case file. And yet, it is there, cataloged, public, and attached to the name of one of the most gifted stand-up comedians to ever pick up a microphone. In fact, he has been involved in some 24 altercations and legal incidents over the years. During one particularly difficult stretch in late 2012, Williams was arrested 5 times in 2 months on charges that included allegedly beating an 18-year-old with a bottle on his tour bus, attacking a family outside a sports bar, and child endangerment after the LA County Department of Children and Family Services found illegal drugs at his home. 5 arrests in 2 months. In that same period, Williams announced the end of his stand-up comedy career, and then, 3 days later, announced he would not retire after all. The announcement and the retraction came within 72 hours of each other. That oscillation between walking away and coming back, between burning it all down and rebuilding, would define his career for over a decade. 2 live performances in November 2012 ended early due to confrontational behavior. A November 1st show at the Wells Fargo Theater in Denver ended after he jumped off the stage to confront a heckler. His November 16th performance at the Oracle Arena in Oakland ended after he launched into a profanity-laced confrontation with an audience member and had to be assisted off stage by his own security team. An attendee of that shortened Oakland show filed a class action lawsuit days afterward, seeking compensation for everyone who had paid for a performance and received, in the lawsuit's own framing, nothing but a non-performance. The gap between who Katt Williams was on stage and who he was off it was becoming impossible to ignore. On stage, He was electric, a fully formed comedic genius who could command a room with nothing but his voice and a three-piece suit. Off stage, he was fielding criminal charges across multiple states, skipping court appearances, and getting into altercations at soccer games. He was involved in a supermarket confrontation with radio host Wanda Smith, where he claimed Smith's husband had threatened him with a gun, though no charges were pressed. The incident added to a string of legal troubles spanning multiple states, from California to Georgia, with some cases resulting in legal action and others resolved through plea deals or dropped entirely. Despite all of these brushes with the law, Williams had seemingly not faced arrest at all since 2018. He has spoken openly about his numerous arrests over the years, while consistently highlighting that none of them ended with an actual felony conviction. And though he has spent nights in jail, he has never been given a prison sentence. The comedian has often made efforts to dismiss his arrests, justify his actions leading up to them, or redirect the blame elsewhere. And that last part matters more than it might seem. Because the Katt Williams who sat across from Shannon Sharpe in January 2024 and pointed the finger at Kevin Hart, at Steve Harvey, at Cedric the Entertainer, at the entire industry. That same Katt Williams had a documented public history of refusing to accept accountability for his own chaos. My frustration with Katt Williams comes from, you keep pointing at Hollywood, and the white man. This, and this, Hart said. When do you take responsibility for your actions? You had the shot. You were the guy. Hart's frustration was not coming from nowhere. It was coming from watching a man with extraordinary talent use that talent as a weapon against everyone around him, rather than as a foundation to build something lasting. And as Williams loaded up the Club Shay interview, the legal record, the canceled shows, the confrontations, and the chaos had not gone anywhere. They were always there, just below the surface, waiting to be part of the conversation again. Kevin Hart offered an olive branch to Katt Williams during Netflix's roast of Kevin Hart, asking to move past their years-long feud. But before that handshake, before that hug in front of a packed Kia Forum, there was a quieter moment that most people missed, because it happened not on a stage but in private. The tension had resurfaced in a major way in 2024, during Williams' viral Club Shay interview where he accused Hart of being an industry plant and claimed projects had been taken from him. Despite all of that, Hart later revealed on Carmelo Anthony's 7 p.m. in Brooklyn podcast that the two had privately spoken and had already started moving toward a better place. That private conversation, the one nobody filmed, the one with no audience, the one that produced no content for social media, that is the conversation that made the roast moment possible. Because you do not shake hands with someone you genuinely despise in front of millions of people without having already tested the waters in private. The roast was the public performance of something that had already been quietly negotiated. And then there was the moment that preceded all of it. Around the time the roast was being arranged, Katt Williams reportedly called Kevin Hart the king of comedy, the very title he had spent years publicly trying to strip away. Katt Williams and Kevin Hart officially ended their long-standing feud on Sunday night, and the reunion marked a genuine shift in the relationship between two comedy titans whose rivalry had spanned nearly a decade. The roast itself featured an ensemble that made Williams' appearance even more resonant in context. The event was hosted by Shane Gillis and included Regina Hall, Tiffany Haddish, Tom Brady, Chelsea Handler, Pete Davidson, Venus and Serena Williams, Dwayne Johnson, Usher, Tiesto, and Lizzo. Tiffany Haddish was there. The same Tiffany Haddish that Katt Williams had publicly attacked in 2017 and whose defense had drawn Kevin Hart into the first real public exchange of this entire feud. That detail alone tells you something about how much ground had been covered between everyone involved. Now, here's where the framing of the story starts to land differently. The idea of Katt Williams reaching out, of the industry's gatekeeper finally getting to the man who had been calling him a fraud, it carries a very specific weight. And that weight is this: for all of Katt Williams' fire, for all of his 86 million views and his prophecy claims and his industry plant allegations, the man who had the piece, the platform, and the power to extend an olive branch at the end of all of it was Kevin Hart. Whether you read Williams' roast appearance as a capitulation, a career move, or a genuine act of reconciliation depends on how charitably you have been watching Katt Williams these past 10 years. Hart admitted to Charlemagne the God that he regretted engaging at all, clarifying that his Breakfast Club remarks were more about defending Haddish in that moment than any genuine desire to address Williams directly. Both men then retreated into their respective careers until that one podcast appearance in January 2024 reignited everything with considerably more ammunition than before. So who actually won this feud? By the numbers, it is not even close. Both men are comedic powerhouses, but Hart's business ventures, including deals with Peacock and Netflix, have propelled him to an estimated net worth of $450 million, making him a clear winner in the financial department. Kevin Hart's name is on the roast. His platform is the one Netflix decided was worth building an entire live event around. And the man who spent the better part of a decade publicly trying to erase Hart's legacy walked into that special, stood at that podium, and ended his set with a hug. On May 4, 2024, Katt Williams' Woke Folk had streamed live from Los Angeles as part of the Netflix Is a Joke Festival, his 13th stand-up special and his third for Netflix. Williams still has talent. He still has Netflix. He still has a following. The question was never whether he was gifted. The question was always whether he could hold it together long enough to let the gift do the work without burning everything around it. And perhaps that is what the roast moment really was. Not surrender. Not begging. Not a man broken by the machine he spent years raging against. But a comedian, a genuinely brilliant one, finally letting the wall down long enough to stand next to the man he had been measuring himself against for a decade, exchange actual jokes, and walk out of a building together. Their feud, which included accusations, public insults, and deep disagreements over careers and industry favoritism, became one of the defining rivalries in stand-up comedy over the past decade. And it ended not with a press release, not with a legal settlement, not with a social media post, but with two comedians in front of a crowd choosing to laugh instead of fight. "Me and this man have been at odds for years and years," Hart told the audience. "I want to move on. Can we move on?" And then, on a serious note, I love the fact that that man showed up tonight. Whether Katt Williams was pushed to that stage or pulled there by something he needed, he showed up. And in a career defined so often by not showing up, canceled shows, missed court dates, announced retirements, chaotic exits from arenas, showing up, finally, for the right thing may be the most meaningful thing he has done in years. If this story made you think, drop a comment below. And if you want more deep dives like this one, make sure you're subscribed. There is always more to unpack.